Hey everybody, it's Dave Dugdale, learningvideo.com. I'm in a silhouette, so you can concentrate mostly on what I'm saying and not so much the quality of the video. I'm just going to kind of bounce back and forth between the Insta Mic and the Rode VideoMic Pro. The Rode VideoMic Pro is what I've been primarily using on this channel, and that's when you're used to hearing with my voice. So I thought I'd start with this combo. And I'm just going to switch back and forth just between these two. I've got a couple other mics that I'm going to compare it as well to. There's no EQ, no compression, nothing on either of these. All I've done is basically normalize the tracks. So I've had the Instamics for a couple of months now, and I thought I'd use them more, but unfortunately I haven't used them that much on the projects that I'm working on over the summer. So I thought I'd introduce Ben Bruton-Cox from Our Week in Video. He's from England, and he does a lot of wedding and corporate work. And in his wedding work, he uses a lot of the Instamics, and he's been using for like last, I want to say, year maybe. So the first kind of question I asked him was, and I apologize if I was using Skype and it's a little out of sync and it was really hard to sync, so I apologize for that. But he is using an Instamic in the interview as we're talking. And he doesn't have any EQ or compression or anything like that on his track. It was basically using the mic and basically hiding the mic in his situation where he's using it on a bride or groom or something like that in a wedding. So I wanted to start off with this very first story he told. And when he talks about a vicar, for you guys in the United States, that's more like a priest, I believe. In England, they call them vicars.
The last one I went to, the vicar was sent from hell, literally. And Dave is nodding. Dave, you've listened to the last podcast. And yeah, and I literally, what I had to do, because she said, if I see a little lapel mic, and she's obviously fairly savvy with this, if I see a lapel mic, I will stop the service and ask you to take it, and you can't put it back on again, basically. Now, I understand that it's fair enough that it's her church. Technically, it wasn't, because she was only standing. That she didn't want me to record it. I should go with her wishes. Fair enough, but the couple didn't know this. So, and I do get on a rant here, so sorry, Dave, and sorry, the viewers, for listening to this. So what I did, I noticed the groom, I told the groom, I said, this is the problem, this is what you should always do. Tell the groom, and then say, look, I don't want to have a Barney, I don't want to have any issues with the vicar. So what I'm going to do is basically, I'm going to hide it. So imagine I've got a suit on, whatever. I put the magnetic bit on the outside, and this on the inside. So it was kind of hidden. It was a bit more rusty than I liked it, but it's the only way I could get away with it. Now people could say to me, well, there's a magnetic thing, literally the magnet on the outside. Wouldn't that be a bit of an eyesore? Well, yeah, it was, but under the lapel of flowers, that was all right. And also he had a little what's the word? Not a badge, that's the wrong word. Like a brooch, effectively, with, I think it was his father who wasn't about anymore, more towards the top. So actually it looked like he was just a bit sort of, had a few things on there, effectively, you know. So it fitted in well. The vicar had no clue, and the audio came out really well. It didn't come out as well as I liked it to, because the mics are on the side here, so there was a bit of rustling, but it wasn't bad. There's only at one point when they moved. Of course, with weddings, people don't move that much. But but that's fine, because I've got about 3 microphones in churches, so I can literally chop between one and the other. So, but yeah, I was really happy with that solution. But that was the only. I could not have done it with a lapel mic or the other ones I have, which is the Sony TX650s. That I would thought about using that, because you can sort of hide the mic. But she was savvy; she knew what she was doing. So I decided I'm not going to use my Sonys, which I've used for a couple of years now.
All right, next up I'm going to be comparing the Sony Sennheiser G3 system with the MKE2, I believe. It's the one that came original with the G3 system, which I think a lot of people own. So I'm using that one instead of my Rode pin mic, which I actually use more because I like that sounding better than the MKE2. But I thought I'd just use the MKE2 here because I think a lot of you guys own it. So I'm just going to bounce back between these two microphones. Personally, I think the Instamic sounds a little bit better. They both are very, they have a lot of emphasis, or almost I'd call it like kind of brittle or distortion in the upper frequencies, maybe 4 to 8K. So if I say Sister Sally sells seashells by the seashore, So if I say, Sister Sally sells seashells by the seashore, So I think you can hear that the Sennheiser G3 with the MKE2 is a little bit more brittle than the Instamic. So next up, the next question I wanted to ask Ben was about using the app and also the possibility of adding a mic jack into the Instamic. Because one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Ben mostly is because he does it for weddings. A lot of times when I try to use it this summer, I was like, oh, this would be a great example to test out the Instamic for this particular interview. I could never find a place in the person's shirt to mount it. And even if you use it like on a regular t-shirt, it kind of, pulls the t-shirt down because it's got a little bit of weight to it. It's got a rechargeable battery in it and I guess a little memory and preamp and all that other stuff. It's going to add some weight to it. So it's not as light as just a lavalier microphone. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if you could just take your favorite lavalier and plug it into this device and put it into somebody's pocket or clip it behind them or something out of the way. I think that would be pretty cool, especially with the app feature of being able to monitor the audio before you hit record. Once you hit record, I've talked to the people over at Instamic and they said they can't really allow you to listen in while it's recording because they thought the battery life, I guess over maybe Bluetooth, how it works would drain the battery on the Instamic too quickly and you wouldn't get your 3-hour plus recording time out of it, which might be very important to a lot of people. So let's go ahead and hear Ben's views on the app as well as a microphone input.
At the moment, what I'm doing is I'm using the Tascams. Yeah, because a lot of people have got the PA systems, so they just hold the mic up and they do that. So now what I'm doing is I'm basically using the electrical tape to put the TX650 on, and then it's a really messed up system. And then I strap that to the TX650. So look how much that juts out there. But do you know what? It works, and every time I choose the audio from the Instamic over the TX650 because there's better resonance. For me, I mean, Dave, your test will tell us more, but for me, the microphones in there are obviously clearly larger, and therefore you get better resonance of tone and bass and everything that goes with that. These ones are great, don't get me wrong, but I've always got to add a bass enhancer with the whenever I do the editing. So it's always something which I've got to do, which is not a bad thing, it's just literally a filter done. But I prefer the mics for these. I prefer the audio from these mics, to be fair.
All right, for this comparison, I'm going back to the Rode VideoMic Pro and comparing it to the Instamic. Obviously, the Rode VideoMic Pro has a lot more bass to it. It's a bit smoother, especially in those higher frequencies. When I say Sister Sally sells seashells by the seashore, Sister Sally sells seashells by the seashore, you can hear that the Rode VideoMic Pro sounds a little bit more professional, and the Instamic sounds just a little bit more brittle in the high end. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and snap my fingers. Now we've got EQ on the Instamic. So when I say Sister Sally sells seashells by the seashore, to me it doesn't really just tear your head off when you're listening to it, especially with a female voice. It can be a bit too irritating if it's that area of frequency is too pronounced. So I'm going to snap my fingers again, and now I've gone back to being on EQ. There's no EQ on it at all now. And the last part I wanted to talk to Ben about was how his audio kind of system has evolved and what it is now and what he uses. Because one of the things that I've learned is you have something very small in your camera bag, like the Rode SmartLav that I'm using right now. It's basically just a little tiny cable, and you can put it in a tiny pouch, and you can put it in your camera bag, and you can basically leave it there all the time. It's always in your bag. So if you're ever in the situation like I talked about before, where you've got one more person you have to lav up, you're like, okay, I'll give up my phone right now just to do this interview, and then boom, you've got it. We have a similar situation with the Instamic because it's so small. You can just put it in your camera bag and just away you go. And you can leave it in your camera bag. It's not any really extra added weight that you need to carry around.
Now, it's interesting because my camera bag has stayed the same, but the contents have got smaller. With things like the A6500, which I've got here, and smaller microphones, all that sort of stuff, and the batteries, my camera bags, I used to have a separate bag, like a normal photography bag. I used to have a normal photography bag for my audio. So it used to be booms, it used to be all this sort of stuff. Now, I kid you not, it's in that. That is my audio bag for weddings now, whatever mate that is. Iron glass adapters, I don't know whatever. But literally, they all go in here. And just to let you know, I've got 4 Sonys. It's a complete overkill. And I've got all the adapters for the Insta Mics. I've got my 4 Insta Mics and the wind muff things, whatever they're called, as well as cases for the Sonys. And it all goes in there, and I can even do the top up. You know, we live in very different times for what I'm sort of semi-used to.
So overall, I think this is a great, fantastic microphone. I think the app works really well. It's really intuitive to use when you don't even use the app. There's a lot of great things they have going for it. I think it's priced right. I think it's around, there's 2 models, I think it's around 140 or 160 for what it does. It's one of those things like you could throw in your camera bag, leave it in there, and then you're like, oh, I need to lav somebody else up, or I need to put this on an instrument like a bass or guitar, or maybe on the tailpipe of a car. But that rhymes, that's pretty cool. So basically, I think it's a great device. For me, unfortunately, every time I tried to use it this summer, every time I try to put on somebody's shirt, especially if it's outdoor activity and they're wearing a t-shirt, it kind of pulls the t-shirt down a little bit. If the color of the t-shirt, let's say, is white and you have a black microphone, the contrast is pretty high. Obviously, they sell a white microphone as well, so you can match it up that way. But if you've got this thing on somebody's shirt and you're not hiding it well enough, and that's why the reason I wanted to talk to Ben about mounting it and hiding it and stuff like that, how he's been doing it for the last year. He's come up with some great ideas, especially with brides and grooms. But for me, I just never could get around that. So hopefully, you know, they take my suggestion of maybe putting a microphone input on a future version. I don't know if that's a year or 2 away or however long that might take. If they're even, it sounds like they're getting a lot of suggestions about it. I think that would be pretty cool. Because ultimately, whenever I use like my Sennheiser G3 system, I'm always nervous. And I think the best of both worlds, obviously, is to have the microphone not only transmit to the camera, and you got synced up with the video right off the bat, you don't have to deal with it in post, but also being able to record something locally. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tascam has a wireless mic system like that. And maybe they do, I can't remember. But basically, it can go to a very small device, be recorded inside the unit. So if you do get interference, let's say in a factory or something like that, you could always go back to the memory that's built into the transmitter. I think that's really kind of where things are heading. So if Instamic can do something like that, especially with their Bluetooth capability to the smartphone and being able to monitor it, I think things heading in that direction could be a good idea. All right, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you've got an idea of how it sounds compared to all the different microphones that I own, and you get a good idea if this is something that's right for you. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.